In this video, we are going to study about the tongue. The tongue is a solid conical muscular organ covered partially by the mucous membrane, which lies partly in the oral cavity and partly in the pharynx. When you see the function of the tongue, it acts as an organ of taste and helps in mastication, deglutition and speech. It is sometimes utilized in gestures and postures of the facial expression. It helps in moistening the lips. In some lower animals, example dog, it is used for thermoregulation by panting. Sometimes tongue prints displaying a pattern of lingual papillae are used in medico-legal purposes for personal identification. Clinically, it acts as a mirror in various disturbances of alimentary tract. When you see the presenting part, the tongue presents a tip. So this is a tip which is also the apex, and then you have the base. So this is the base, and then you have two surfaces. What you are seeing here is the dorsal surface. The surface below this will be the inferior surface, and you have two lateral margin. So these are the lateral margin. So you have the tip, then you have the base, and you have, this is the dorsal surface, and then you have the inferior surface, and then you have two lateral margin, and this part of the tongue is the root of the tongue, and this part of the tongue is the body of the tongue. When you see the tip is directed forward in contact with the incisor teeth. And when you see the base, it is directed backward towards the oropharynx, and it is formed by the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. The base is connected to the epiglottis by a median glossoepiglottic fold and a pair of lateral glossoepiglottic fold. On each side of the median fold, there is a depression that is known as the epiglottic vallicula. So this is the epiglottic vallicula. So now we'll see the dorsal surface. It is convex on all sides, covered with the mucous membrane which is moist and pink, and it is lined usually by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. The dorsal surface is divided by the V-shaped sulcus, that is known as the sulcus terminalis, into anterior 2/3, which is also known as the oral part or pre-sulcal part, and the posterior 1/3, which is known as the pharyngeal or post-sulcal part of the tongue. The sulcus passes forward and laterally from the central depression that is known as the foramen cecum, which indicates the commencement of the median thyroid rudiment as the thyroglossal duct. The features of the mucous membrane of the oral and the pharyngeal parts of the tongue are different. In the presulcal part or the oral part, the mucous membrane is adherent to the underlying muscles by the lamina propria, and it is provided with numerous papillae of different types. Each papilla is a projection of lamina propria covered by the mucous membrane. So when you see the types of the papilla, first we'll see the valate papilla. So these are the valate papilla. So these are about 8 to 12 in number and is arranged in a V-shaped single row immediately in front and parallel to the sulcus terminalis. So in here you can see, so this is the circumvallate papilla. So the circumvallate papilla is a truncated cone. So this is a truncated cone with a broad base which is directed to the surface of the tongue, and it is covered by the surrounded by the circular sulcus. So here you can see it is surrounded by the circular sulcus. Hence it is known as circumvallate papillae. The wall of the sulcus presents the taste buds. So these are the taste buds which are present in the wall of the sulcus, and its bottom receives the ducts of the serous gland. So these are the ducts of the serous glands which opens into the bottom, and the secretion of these glands make the food somewhat soluble so that it stimulates the taste bud. The outer wall of the sulcus is known as the velum. So next papilla is the fungiform papilla. So these are these fungiform papilla. So these are rounded reddish elevation situated discretely along the sides and the tips of the tongue. They also contain the taste buds. So here in the model you can see this is the fungiform. So it looks like the mushroom. So fungiform papilla, which are rounded elevations, so which are discretely present along the sides and the tip of the tongue. So when you take this section, you can see these are the taste buds which are present in the fungiform papillae. The next papilla is the folate papilla. So these are the folate papilla. These are 3 or 4 vertical mucus folds affecting occasionally the margin of the tongue in front of the sulcus terminalis, and they also contain the taste buds. The folate papilla are more prominent in the rabbits. So here in the model you can see these are the folds which are known as the folate papilla. So these are present along the sides, margins of the tongue, and here you can see these also has the taste buds. Next we'll see about the filiform papilla. So these are numerous tiny conical projections affecting the entire dorsal surface of the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. They are arranged in a series of V-shaped rows parallel to the sulcus terminalis, except those close to the apex of the tongue where they are transversely oriented. The filiform papilla are devoid of taste buds. The epithelial cells of the tip of the papilla are keratinized. This makes the surface rough and helps grasping of the food. Some of the papillae give rise to branches from the tips and the sides. Along the filiform papilla, the papillae simplicis are found as microscopic elevation. So here in the model you can see these are the numerous elevations which are known as the filiform papillae. Next we'll see about the post-sulcal part or the pharyngeal part. The mucous membrane is devoid of papillae and it is separated from the underlying muscle by a loose submucous coat. The submucous coat contains a mucus and the serous glands and numerous lymphatic follicles, that is known as the lingual tonsils. Each lymphatic follicle contains a collection of lymphocytes and contains a funnel-shaped central recess which receives the ductules of the mucous glands. Next we'll see the inferior surface. The inferior surface is covered with the mucous membrane and it is devoid of papillae and it is reflected onto the floor of the mouth. The inferior surface of the tongue presents the following feature. First you get the you can see this is the frenulum lingulae. The frenulum lingulae is a median fold connecting the tongue to the floor of the mouth. Next you can see this is the sublingual papilla which are present on each side of the base of the frenulum through which the submandibular duct opens. On each side of the frenulum you get the plica fimbriata which passes upward and medially, and the profunda linguae vein intervenes between the fimbriated fold and the frenulum. In this picture you can see this is a shortening of the frenulum, so which is known as the tongue tie. Now we'll see about the lateral margin. Each margin is covered with the mucous membrane and you can see the palatoglossal arch. It is attached to the margin at the junction of the anterior 2/3 and the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. In this picture you can see this is the tip of the tongue which lies opposite to the incisor teeth, and this is the root of the tongue. The root of the tongue is a part of the tongue attached to the floor of the mouth and extends from the symphysis mente to the hyoid bone. So the root of the tongue is formed mainly by the genioglossus muscle. So this forms the root of the tongue, which extends from the symphysis mente to the hyoid bone. Next we'll see about the taste buds. The taste buds composed of modified epithelial cells which are arranged as the spherical masses within the epithelium covering the tongue. It is also present along the inferior surface of the soft palate, palatoglossal arches, the posterior surface of the epiglottis and the posterior wall of the oropharynx. They are more numerous on the sides of the valate papillae. Each taste bud is made up of slender spindle-shaped cells which are pale, and these are known as the gustatory sensory cells. Other cells are the supporting cells. Each bud opens on the surface of the epithelium by the aperture that is known as the gustatory pore, through which the gustatory hair made up of microvilli projects. The base of the bud is penetrated by the afferent gustatory nerve fibers. Functionally, 4 types of subjective taste sensation are appreciated by the tongue: the sweet and the salt at the tip of the tongue, the sour taste at the sides, and the bitter in the pharyngeal part of the tongue. Now we'll see about the muscle of the tongue. The tongue is divided into 2 symmetrical halves by a median fibrous septum. So this is a median fibrous septum which is coronally oriented in the posterior part of the tongue, which is attached below to the hyoid bone, forming the hyoglossal membrane. Each half contains striated muscles which are arranged into 2 groups. You have an extrinsic group of muscle and intrinsic group of muscle. The extrinsic muscles alter the position of the tongue, whereas the intrinsic muscles alter the shape of the tongue. So now we'll see about the extrinsic muscles. The extrinsic muscle consists of 5 pairs of muscle: the genioglossus muscle, the hyoglossus muscle, the styloglossus muscle, then you have the palatoglossus muscle, and also the chondroglossus muscle. First we'll see about the genioglossus muscle. It is a fan-shaped muscle, forms the bulk of the tongue. So it arises from the upper genial tubercles of the symphysis mente of the mandible. Insertion: the lower fibers are attached to the body of the hyoid bone. The intermediate fibers passes deep to the hyoglossus muscle and are continuous with the middle constrictor muscles of the pharynx. The upper fibers passes upward and forward and are inserted into the tongue, extending from the root to the apex. Action: it protrudes the tip of the tongue and makes the dorsal surface concave from side to side. The integrity of the action of the genioglossus saves the life of the subject by preventing the backward fall of the tongue towards the oropharynx, otherwise the respiration might be obstructed. Hence, the genioglossus is called the safety muscle of the tongue. Next, we'll see about the hyoglossus muscle. So, this is a hyoglossus muscle. It is the quadrilateral muscle, arises from the upper surface of the greater carnivore and also partly from the body of the hyoid bone. The muscle passes upward and slightly forward under cover of the mylohyoid muscle, and it is inserted to the side of the tongue between the styloglossus muscle laterally and the inferior longitudinal muscle medially. Action of the hyoglossus muscle: it depresses the side of the tongue and makes the dorsal surface convex. Now we'll see the relations of the hyoglossus muscle, superficial or lateral relation. So it is covered by the mylohyoid muscle. Between the mylohyoid and the hyoglossus muscle, you can see the following structures. From above downwards, you get the mucous membrane of the side of the tongue. Then you get the styloglossus muscle. Then you get the lingual nerve. Then you get the submandibular ganglia, which is suspended from the lingual nerve by two roots. So in this picture, you can see the hyoglossus muscle is covered by the mylohyoid muscle. Okay, after reflecting the mylohyoid only, you can see the superficial relation or the lateral relations of the hyoglossus muscle. So below the lingual nerve, you can see the deep part of the submandibular salivary gland and its duct. You can see the duct. So the duct is hooked at its lower margin from lateral to medial by the lingual nerve. So it hooks the submandibular salivary gland duct. Below that, you can see the hypoglossal nerve, which is accompanied by the pair of veins, and then you can see the suprahyoid artery, which is the branch from the first part of the lingual artery. So this is the first part of the lingual artery. From there you get the suprahyoid branch. Next we'll see the medial relations or deep relations. So it is related to the inferior constrictor muscle close to the insertion, and it is related to the middle constrictor muscle of the pharynx and the second part of the lingual artery close to the origin. Then it is related to the stylopharyngeus muscle, the stylohyoid ligament, and the junction of the first and the second part of the lingual artery deep to the posterior border. The next muscle is the chondroglossus. It is a detached part of the hyoglossus muscle separated by the genioglossus muscle. It arises from the lesser carnivora and the part of the body of the hyoid bone, and the muscle is inserted to the sides of the tongue. Action: it depresses the side of the tongue. The next muscle we'll see is the styloglossus muscle. So this is the styloglossus muscle. The muscle arises from the tip of the styloid process and from the stylomandibular ligament. It passes downward and forward and it's inserted to the sides of the tongue. The oblique fibers interdigitate with the hyoglossus muscle, and the longitudinal fibers are continuous with the inferior longitudinal muscles of the tongue. Action: it retracts the tongue backward and upward, and it is antagonistic to the action of the genioglossus muscle. The next muscle we'll see is the palatoglossus muscle. The palatoglossus muscle takes origin from the undersurface of the palatine aponeurosis, passes downwards and forward in front of the tonsillar fossa under cover of the palatoglossal arch and gets inserted to the side of the tongue in front of the sulcus terminalis. Here most of the fibers are continuous with the transverse linguae muscle. Action: it elevates the base of the tongue and narrows the oropharyngeal isthmus. Next we'll see about the intrinsic muscle. It consists of 4 pairs of muscle. You get the superior longitudinal muscle, inferior longitudinal muscle, transverse muscle and verticalis muscle. So first we'll see about the superior longitudinal muscle. It lies beneath the mucous membrane of the dorsal surface of the tongue. Both muscle arises from the posterior part of the median fibrous septum, diverge forwards and laterally and are inserted to the sides of the tongue. Action: they reduce the length of the tongue and makes the dorsal surface concave from side to side. Then we'll see about the inferior longitudinal muscle. The inferior longitudinal muscle lies beneath the mucous membrane of the undersurface of the tongue, deep to the insertion of the hyoglossus muscle. So this is the hyoglossus muscle, deep to the insertion of the hyoglossus muscle. Both muscle arises from the posterior part of the sides of the tongue, converge forward for the insertion into the anterior part of the median fibrous septum. Action: they shorten the tongue and makes the dorsal surface convex. Then the transverse linguae muscle. The transverse linguae muscle arises from the median fibrous septum, passes laterally through the genioglossus muscle and are inserted to the side of the tongue. These muscles reduce the width and increase the length of the tongue. Then the verticalis muscle, the verticalis linguae. Each muscle arises from the lamina propria of the dorsum of the tongue, passes downward through the fibers of the genioglossus muscle and then curves laterally for the insertion into the sides of the tongue. It increases the width of the tongue and makes the dorsal surface concave from side to side. So now we'll see the muscles altering the shape of the tongue. So the muscles which makes the dorsum concave are the genioglossae muscle, superior longitudinal muscle, verticalis linguae muscle and styloglossus muscle. The muscles which make the dorsum convex are the hyoglossus muscle and the inferior longitudinal muscle. The muscle which shortens the tongue are the superior and the inferior longitudinal muscle and the verticalis muscle. The muscle which elevates the tongue are the transversus linguae muscle. When you see the arrangements of the tongue muscles on the coronal section from the median septum, so you can see this is the genioglossus muscle into which other intrinsic muscles are intermingled. Then you can see this is the inferior longitudinal muscle. Then you can see the hyoglossus muscle. Then you can see the styloglossus muscle. So these are the arrangement of the tongue muscles on the coronal section from median septum. Next we'll see about the nerve supply. First we'll see about the motor supply. In that we'll see about the somatomotor which supplies the muscles. All the muscles of the tongue including the extrinsic and the intrinsic muscles are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve except the palatoglossus muscle which is supplied by the cranial part of the accessory nerve via the pharyngeal plexus. The secretomotor fibers to the anterior lingual glands arises from the superior salivatory nucleus which gives rise to the preganglionic fibers, and these fibers passes successfully through the facial nerve, cardia-tympani nerve, lingual nerve and they are relayed into the submandibular ganglion. The postganglionic fibers reach the anterior lingual glands via the lingual nerve. The vasomotor supply, they are derived from the sympathetic nerve which surrounds the lingual artery, and these convey the postganglionic fibers from the superior cervical sympathetic ganglion. Next we'll see about the sensory supply. First we'll see about the anterior two-third. The general sensation from the anterior two-third are carried by the lingual nerve, and the special sensation for the taste except the circumvallate papillae are carried by the cardia-tympani nerve. The general sensation and the taste sensation from the posterior one-third of the tongue including the circumvallate papillae are carried by the glossopharyngeal nerve. And from the vallicula, it is carried by the internal laryngeal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve. The muscle sense is conveyed successfully through the hypoglossal nerve to the lingual nerve. Through that it reaches the trigeminal ganglion without interruption, and the cell body is located in the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. Next we'll see about the arterial supply. The chief artery of the tongue is the lingual artery which is a branch from the external carotid artery. The dorsal lingual artery supplies the pharyngeal part and the rest is supplied by the arteria profunda linguae. In addition to this, the ascending palatine and the tonsillar branches of the facial artery and the ascending pharyngeal artery also supplies the tongue. Next we'll see the venous drainage. The veins of the tongue are arranged in two sets, the superficial set and the deep set. The superficial vein drains the tip and the undersurface of the tongue, passes superficial to the hyoglossus muscle, accompanying the hypoglossal nerve and ends in the internal jugular vein. The deep vein drains the dorsum of the tongue and passes deep to the hyoglossus muscle and terminates into the internal jugular vein either directly or after joining the superficial vein. Next we'll see about the lymphatic drainage. The lymphatics of the tongue consist of intramuscular and submucous plexus and they are arranged into four sets: the apical set, the marginal set, the central set and the dorsal set. The apical set. It drains the tip and the frenulum linguae and descends with or without decussation and terminates as follows. Some vessels, they pierce the mylohyoid muscle and they drain into the submental group of lymph node. Some vessels, they pass downward in front of the hyoid bone and they drain directly into the jugulo-omohyoid group of lymph node. Some vessels, they drain into the submandibular nodes after piercing the mylohyoid muscle. A few vessels passes deep to the mylohyoid and terminate into the jugulodigastric nodes or the jugulo-omohyoid nodes. The marginal sets. The vessels drain the side of the tongue in front of the sulcus terminalis and they terminate as follows. Some vessels, they drain into the submandibular nodes after piercing the mylohyoid muscle. Some vessels, they pass deep to the mylohyoid muscle and they drain directly to the jugulodigastric and the jugulo-omohyoid node. Next we'll see about the central set. The vessels, they drain the dorsal surface of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue in front of the vallet papillae. They descend between the two genioglossae muscle with or without decussation and they terminate as follows. So first, most of the vessels, they terminate into the jugulodigastric nodes or jugulo-omohyoid nodes without piercing the mylohyoid muscle. A few vessels, they pierce the mylohyoid muscle and they drain into the submandibular group of lymph node. The dorsal set or the basal set, it drains the posterior one-third of the tongue including the vallet papillae. Most of the vessels drain bilaterally into the jugulodigastric nodes after piercing the pharyngeal wall. One vessel passes downward behind the tongue and the hyoid bone, pierces the thyrohyoid membrane and drains directly into the jugulo-omohyoid nodes. When you see the peculiarity of the lymphatics, they do not accompany the blood vessels. In the midline of the tongue, a free decussation takes place and the lymphatics passes bilaterally. The tip of the tongue presents the richest lymphatic drainage. A cancer affecting the tip spreads to all cervical lymph nodes of both sides. A group of lymph node situated at the bifurcation of the common carotid artery is known as the principal lymph node of the tongue. Next we'll see the role of the tongue in mastication. The dorsal surface of the tongue becomes trough-like to receive the food. The tongue is twisted so that one margin is elevated, the other is depressed. This is done by the unilateral action of the styloglossus muscle. As a result, the food accumulates between the margin of the masticatory teeth. The tone of the buccinator and the muscles of the tongue permit proper mastication by the teeth. The sudden contraction of the buccinator pushes the masticated food from the margin of the teeth to the oral cavity. The tongue undergoes a repeated twisted movement to mix the masticated food with the saliva, and it converts it into a bolus. Next we'll see the role of tongue in deglutition. The bolus is placed on the concave dorsal surface of the tongue behind the elevated tip. Therefore, the food is imprisoned between the palate and the tongue. When the mylohyoid muscle contracts and the hyoid bone moves forward and upward, the interval between the palate and the tongue is obliterated. As a result, the food slips backward into the oropharynx. Next, we'll see the role of the tongue in speech. The vowels are produced by the extrinsic muscles of the tongue, which produces a different configuration of the resonating chamber for each vowel. The consonants are produced by the intrinsic muscles of the tongue, so that the tongue is separated from the teeth, gum or palate by a blast of expired air. Next, we'll see the development of the tongue. The mucous membrane is developed from the endoderm of the floor of the pharynx, and it is subdivided into anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3. The anterior 2/3 or the oral part is developed from the fusion of a pair of lingual swellings of the first branchial arch and from an unpaired swelling, that is the tuberculum impar, which appears between the first and the second pharyngeal arches. Later, the anterior 2/3 is separated from the floor of the mouth by the development of alveolo-lingual groove. An endodermal diverticulum known as the thyroglossal duct grows caudally behind the tuberculum impar, which forms the median thyroid rudiment. The proximal end of the duct persists after birth as the foramen cecum. Therefore, the oral part of the tongue is mostly bilateral in development. The posterior 1/3 or the pharyngeal part develops from the median elevation, that is known as the hypobranchial eminence, which is formed by the fusion of second, third and the fourth pharyngeal arches. The eminence is divided by a transverse groove into an posterior part and the anterior part. The posterior part forms the mucous membrane of the epiglottis, and the anterior part, which forms mostly by the third arch, goes forward in a V-shaped manner and fuses with the anterior 2/3, and the line of fusion is indicated by the sulcus terminalis. The composite development of the mucous membrane is represented by its sensory supply. The lingual nerve, which is a branch from the mandibular nerve. So it is a nerve of the first arch. So this supplies the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. Likewise, the cauda tympani nerve, which is the pretraumatic nerve of the first arch, also supplies the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. The glossopharyngeal nerve, which is the nerve of the third arch, supplies the posterior third of the tongue, including the circumvallate papillae. The superior laryngeal nerve is the nerve of the fourth arch, so that supplies the vallicula. The tongue muscles develop from the occipital myotome, which is formed by the fusion of 4 precervical somates. The myotome migrates forward to invade the tongue along the epipericardial ridge, carrying its own nerve supply. This explains why the hypoglossal nerve crosses superficial to both internal and the external carotid arteries. The fibrous stroma of the tongue develops from the mesoderm nearby. When you see the congenital anomaly, aglossia, it means complete absence of the tongue. Hemiglossia, one half of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue is suppressed due to the non-appearance of the lingual swelling on the affected side. Lingual thyroid, the median thyroid rudiments fail to grow caudally and persist within the substance to form the lingual thyroid. Sometimes the remnant of the thyroglossal duct persists and forms the midline cystic tumor, that is the thyroglossal cyst. And this is the tongue tie or ankyloglossia. This is due to the shortening of the frenulum linguae, which produces a disturbance of speech. And this is the bifid tongue. It is a rare anomaly affecting the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, which is due to the non-fusion of the lingual swellings.